All right, we are online. Right, we are online now. Hello and welcome to Cemb's another monthly meetup. This hosted by me, Ali Malik. Today we're joined by the brilliant Ana Gonzalez again, who's going to be talking about the asylum process and how apostates and ex-Muslims can claim asylum here in Britain. Before we start, just a couple of things. So you can check out Cemb's events and all updates on there on this website here. It's in the link is in the comments. You can see there. And here's a link for a film that we recently released. It's about ex-Muslim women leaving Islam. It contains stories of 6 ex-Muslim women who talk about their experiences with Islam and then life after Islam. It's something everybody should have a look at. I think it's a brilliant film. Right. So Ana is an experienced immigration solicitor. So Ana Gonzalez is a solicitor and partner at Wilson Solicitors. She practices in immigration and asylum work and has interest in human rights and European law. Ana is an internationally recognized expert in gender and sexuality-based asylum claims, as well as having extensive expertise in representing individuals from vulnerable and marginalized groups, such as victims of human trafficking, apostates, and transgender individuals. Ana is frequently instructed by local authorities all over Greater London to act for children and adults in their case. Ana is praised in Chambers and Partners for her constant attention to cases, leading clients' care, and real knowledge of the law. So Ana, welcome. And thank you for joining us once again. So I'll pass it over to you to explain the asylum process first, and then bring in the apostasy and ex-Muslim angle into it.
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me again. It's always a pleasure coming to speak to you guys. Asylum process. Well, I'm just going to give a bite-sized summary of what the asylum process is. So one can apply for asylum for many reasons. Most people, when they hear the word asylum or the word refugee, they think of wars, they think of Syria, they think of conflict, they think of political dissidents, Nelson Mandela, Salman Rushdie, people like that. This is who they think of when they hear the term asylum. That's what we are being conditioned to think. The reality is that even though that is correct, many people can apply for asylum for different reasons. It's possible sometimes to apply for asylum for reasons to do with your race. If you are from a particular place where members of your racial social group are persecuted, but more to the point of our talk today, for being an apostate, also for being gay in certain countries, or even being a woman sometimes, and a woman, a married woman, a single mother, a divorced woman, disgraced woman for whatever reason, at risk of an honor killing. That sort of thing, that will also make you a refugee. So apostates from certain countries, people who have renounced their religion, doesn't necessarily need to be Islam, could be any religion. As long as this becomes a problem in your country of origin and you can no longer live there, you potentially have a claim for asylum. In order to apply for asylum, you need to be out of your country of origin. In the UK, you have to be physically in the UK. Other countries, it's in the movies sometimes, people with membership to apply for political asylum. It's possible to do that in the UK, but I do believe that only very high-profile people have managed to do that many years ago. There is no provision for this. Anybody who is somewhere else and goes to British Embassy is possibly will not be able to apply for asylum. You have to be physically in the UK. And the best way to apply for asylum is always on arrival at the airport or the port of entry. Could be an airport, this is an island, could be the Channel Tunnel, could be a port. The problem is that apostates don't know that they can apply for asylum. More often than not, they have no idea. Just like LGBTI claimants, very few know they can apply for asylum. They might be coming here as visitors or as students with the fear of persecution in the country of origin, for apostasy, for other reasons in the back of their mind, thinking that, not knowing what to do. just basically trying to survive for a few years, see whether they can stay or either stay in the UK or keep away from the UK. So that's often what happens to apostates. And it's only when apostates get in touch with organizations such as Cemb or Atheism UK or any other sort of free-thinking organizations that they find out that they can apply for asylum. The process of asylum is very simple and it's very complex at the same time. So it's very simple in the sense that you don't need anything. Technically, you don't need anything. You just need yourself and your passport or some form of ID just to convince the Home Office that you are who you say you are and to convince them of your nationality. If you go online, go to gov.uk and look at asylum, it's just, there's not very much there. And it seems very welcoming and very reasonable. And pretty much all you have to do is call them up if you want to apply for asylum. If you are already in the UK and want to claim asylum, you call them up, say hello. My name is such and such. They might know you already. They might have a record of you. They issued you another visa, for example, or not. And you tell them that you want to claim asylum because you're an apostate. You may have to explain what that is, depending on who you speak to, but that's normally not a problem. Say, well, I have renounced my religion. I cannot go back to my country X. And they say, okay, well, thank you very much. We'll give you another call. A screening happens, and then, which is an initial set of questions where they ask you very, very basic questions about yourself, your nationality, whether you've got any medical conditions, any family in the UK or elsewhere, brief description of why you're applying for asylum, why should they not detain you, because immigration detention is still possible in asylum cases, even though it doesn't happen very much. I'm yet to have an apostate being detained. I have found apostate in detention, but none of my clients have been detained. This is rare when people approach the Home Office telling them that the apostate, they want to apply for asylum, is very rare for them. I haven't really seen a case yet. I haven't seen that happening at all. And they will ask you some other bits and pieces, not very much. And then they're supposed to get back to you within a couple of months for an interview. At the moment, it's back 2.5 years, which has its grace of itself, but it is what we have. And again, for the asylum interview, there's no directions for that. They give you a form these days called PIQ, Preliminary Information Questionnaire. Very simple form. You don't need a lawyer for that. Who are you? Why are you here? Tell us your problems. Why can't you go back? Do you have family here? Medical conditions? Are you in social services? Yes. Why? Do you have a lawyer? Yes. No. Whatever. And it looks very accessible when you look at this. Looks extremely.
Hello, I think we lost you, Anna. Okay, she might have got a phone call, I think. While we're waiting for Anna, I just want to remind everybody that Anna will be answering your questions later on. We've lost Anna now. Okay, so she will be taking live questions later on. You can start posting your questions in the comments, and I'll get those questions over to Anna later on. Hello, Anna.
Apologies about that. Something came up on my phone. Okay, so we were got completely distracted now. So we were talking about the process. Oh yeah, this is very accessible. Seems very accessible, and it should be accessible. But the reality is very different. The reality is very different. For anybody watching who's been to the system, they will be nodding and nodding how different the reality is. Even if you have a reasonably pleasant experience, as some apostates seem to have. If you apply as an apostate and you got nice, decent, enlightened people at the Home Office, those people do exist. Not enough of those, but you know they do exist. It can be a fairly painless experience. It should be a fairly painless experience, but unfortunately, the Home Office's agenda is very, very different of the way it should be when it comes to asylum. They seem to be like very suspicious of everybody. They seem to have an idea, and they seem to have a concept that most people, if not all people who come to the UK and apply for asylum, are not doing it for fear of persecution. They're doing it for other reasons, mainly economic reasons, mainly because they want to live here and work in the UK. The UK is widely seen internationally as a place of opportunity, particularly in certain countries, and I wouldn't disagree with that, quite frankly. And also they will, this also is the infamous reasons, oh, they want to come here, take our houses and take our benefits. Again, some people will have that as an MO. Is a minority. In my experience, it's not really the case. Most of my clients who ended up in some sort of support did so because they had to. Most of my clients actually are not in that position, or maybe they're in a position temporarily. They have little children to look after, whatever. After a while, they just do what is expected of them to do, really. And then, of course, Priti Patel's favorite things are people come here to commit crimes. And of course, they are criminals. They're criminals from everywhere. But foreign criminals in the UK, even though consider the amount of foreign nationals, people who were not originally born in the UK, rather, they live in the UK. The proportion of criminals really is very, very small in that particular group. So but that's what the populist press likes to say, and that's why asylum, unfortunately, very, very regrettably, has ended up with a really, really bad name. Yes. I've got a couple of clients. I didn't realize this was a thing until about 6 months ago. So one of my clients, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, would text me, I've got my 5 years. Remember me? Yeah, remember you. Can we do the indefinite leave to remain? Of course, because this is what happens when you get refugee status. You get 5 years and then you apply for indefinite leave to remain. Let's do that. And then he says, when I get my indefinite, because I told him it'll be fine, and he was fine. When I get my indefinite, will you say refugee in the card? So yeah, you say ILR, indefinite leave to remain refugee. Change that. So, why? Why? Yeah, because people can be very funny about this, and this is somebody who was extremely well spoken, very well qualified, worked in IT, had a great career. You wouldn't expect any issues with somebody like that who had worked abroad in the most of Middle Eastern nations, had a very good career there. So if somebody who had like a really good track record should really have seamlessly slotted himself into the sort of the UK labor market. Well, didn't have any issues. They had some, and he was squished as to the fact that he was a refugee, and there were questions as to whether would you stay. When in reality, most people who are given work permits, they only give work permits for about 3 years, and after 5 years, it just. And so he had a long-term visa, clearly living here, and they didn't really ask him why he got that, but there were lots of questions. Oh, we need to check that with the Home Office. No, you don't need to check that with anybody. He's got a car to live here. We talked about it. Yeah, he's got the same rights you have. But and I thought it was an isolated incident. I knew my client. I knew this client really well. He's somebody really chilled and very sensible. He wouldn't be exaggerating that, and that rattled me a bit. I forgot about it. But then, other clients started reporting the same thing. People who came to do the indefinite leave to remain. Yeah. People with I don't want to say professional jobs. I don't want to make it sound like some jobs are better than others, because that's not the case. But a variety of jobs. Because you would expect people doing lower paid jobs to get more nonsense. They normally do. That is the reality. That's the way of the world. But this was a bit of everything. This man was a professional, was an IT professional, was actually earning quite a lot of money. And eyebrows were raised, not like, oh, how peculiar. We have somebody as a refugee, which would have been fine. It was like, what's this about? So, and I can only think, I've been doing this job for a very long time, and I've never seen that before. And I have dealt with hundreds of refugees and asylum seekers over the years. I've never seen that before until recently. And all I can conclude is that it's just the populist press in this country know who they are, who unfortunately have got a vast amount of readership. And then I read something very interesting the other day that actually made a lot of sense, that all those papers have got free websites. There are no paywalls for them. So you see, they're available to everybody. So if you want something a bit more balanced from other outlets, not all of them have paywalls. The Guardian, for example, doesn't. And Independent only has a number of premium things. But you want to go to the Times, so you can't read anything without paying for this. And not everybody is in a position to actually spend money to pay for the Times, to read the Times online. But you go to the DM, you go to the Guardian, you go to the Mirror. There they are, in all their glory for everybody to read. And this is what most people consume when it comes to news.
That's true.
And that has given us this state of affairs. Now, this is my own personal opinion, but I don't see any other explanation.
You are right. There is a lot of anti-refugee sentiment and hysteria going on around in Europe, especially, and it's creeping into the UK as well, because asylum seekers, especially when they are in the process of claiming asylum, are systematically kept down, especially socioeconomically. Yeah. They are kept down on purpose, and because they're on the bottom of that ladder, it's so easy to just blame everything on them, even if I mean, of course, there are bad apples everywhere, and it's not just refugees.
Of course, everywhere, of course.
Yeah, and because they are different from the mainstream society. Second, they are systematically kept at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder. That means they make such an easy target for every. And there is a lot of hysteria going on in that regard. And you are completely right, I think.
Let me give you an example. This is a very fresh example of the point that you have made, of how the efforts that are being made to keep asylum seekers down. Yeah. Everybody, possibly many people watching this, if you are familiar with the asylum system, you will know that you cannot work as an asylum seeker. Yes. Now, if your case has been pending, as in the Home Office has not resolved it for whatever reason, within a year, then you can apply for work permission. But you only get very restricted work permission, which is work permission within the professions listed in the shortage occupation list. And for those who don't know, the shortage occupation list is a list of occupations we don't have very many people of. Normally, you will get doctors, but not fully qualified doctors, like some of the doctors have got. The doctors, they're actually UK registered doctors, UK registered nurses. There would be people who can be registered, in the UK. There would be sometimes chefs of ethnic cuisines, depending on the type, sometimes are there. I think they're there at the moment. They are lots of engineers, always are teachers. They're always teachers are the big demand in this country. Yeah. So those are the jobs. Now, I've got, most people think of asylum seekers as people from the villages in whatever country. Yeah, I've got those clients as well, but that's not the whole story. You would not believe some of the people are represented. Actually, we cannot give awards, but people would be very surprised. Very, very surprised. And also the people, former clients of mine who went on to do great things. Some of them are actually quite well known. So you see, and those people came here, and they either as asylum seekers, so they came here as something else, and then couldn't go back, which is the typical profile of my the garden variety apostate type of claim. Usually, like lots of people come to the UK. Many of my clients came to the UK either questioning things or being completely 100% devout, and by living in Britain, particularly as students, having the opportunity to mix with others and get other points of view in an open society, they lost their faith. So there's a lot of that. Then you get the others who lost their faith a long time ago, living the radar, and they arrive in Britain and they apply for asylum straight away. But those are a very small minority in my experience. Very small minority in my experience. But there is this perception that refugees and not refugees, but first of all, refugees and asylum seekers is all the same. The panic, they don't understand. Illegal immigrants, it's all the same. The three are interchangeable. Yeah, it's all the same. They don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, because they get it from this paper, they get it from the press. Yeah, and from Facebook and from goodness knows from what. Yeah, from places that don't know what you're talking about. And this is it's just that is the perception that people have, and it's terrible, absolutely terrible. They don't realize that most of my clients, unless they have family in the UK or independent means, some people have got money, lucky them, minority, very small minority. They go independent means, or they got a partner in the UK, and then they can live in decent accommodation and stuff. Most people end up in NAS accommodation, in NAS accommodation. So just to add insult to injury, they keep you in limbo with your life on the balance. Nobody knows what's going to happen to you. You don't know what's going to happen to you, which mentally I can't even imagine. It's just I've seen it in my clients time and time again, and it's horrendous. I think that there has to be a specific type of PTSD from that. So you are having
extremely daunting. It's extremely daunting.
exactly.
The whole experience is quite traumatizing, because especially when you so there are different stages of being in that limbo, because there are different limbos. The first one is from screening to main interview, because you don't know what you're going to be asked. And when you do walk in for your main interview, it feels like you're walking into a place with your life on your hands, because you know, like, okay, first of all, you are going to be scrutinized for everything you're saying. You're going to be made out to be some sort of a liar just for explaining your own life story to people. So yeah, and then once the interview is done, there's a lot of anxiety about the result, and then again, result can take ages as well.
Yeah,
And
you can.
throughout that period, it can be years at time. And throughout this 2 years of period, let's say on average, you are not getting trained for the job market. So you're professionally not ready when you on the other side of it all. Secondly, you are quite scared of everything, because you don't know what's going on with your life. There is a lot of uncertainty in your life regarding everything.
Exactly. And we see that at our firm. Anybody who works in asylum, we see that all the time. So now, I've got clients, and possibly there will be people watching this. I've got clients who have been waiting for over 2 years for an interview for no valid reason. Okay, for no valid reason. Now, I haven't got to my point. Yeah, but I wanted to explain the background for those who might not be familiar. So you've been waiting for a year. The Home Office haven't given you a decision. It's not you delaying things or dragging your feet. No. You're patiently waiting at your nurse accommodation, getting your 30 to 55 pounds per week, the princely sum off, and just waiting. Okay, so 12 months go by until your lawyer, oh, can you make a permission? I said, you sure? What permission? Easy. That job done. They give you a permission, but they give it with one hand and they take it away with the other, because unless you are in those occupations, you cannot work. So you cannot go to Tesco and stack shelves, which is a job that I think I've never done, but I believe that pretty much anybody can do, really. So just or set yourself up for employment, and then maybe sort of give do translations, like some clients of mine can do, or teach languages, teach Arabic or languages that are popular, or do anything, anything and everything, from being a CEO to being a cleaner and everything in between. No, they will deliberately refuse you that. So recently, there was a case about how reasonable, the reasonableness of the Home Office's position of only allowing asylum seekers who've been waiting for more than 12 months to work in professions listed in the shortage occupation list. So we got that early in January, and I didn't read the thing properly, and I was really excited. Finally. It looked like, somebody took the Home Office to court, fought them, and then, this is fine now. So I didn't read the thing properly, and I was really excited, and I was really busy and stuff. And then clients find out, they say, it looks really good. I haven't really read it yet. Oh, can you please ask for me? I say, of course. I quote the case, whatever. Then they go back within 3 or 4 days. They're very quick for that. Just to say no, and inviting me rather snootily to read the case properly, which I should have done, actually, to be fair. But and that was just in exceptional circumstances. So being made to wait for 2.5 years for an interview, and you went to the Home Office and you gave them the case packed, like in my case, nice to prepare case. Pretty much all that is missing is a pink ribbon around it. Yeah, that's the only thing that is missing. I'm waiting for 2.5 years. That is not exceptional. There's nothing exceptional around that. Oh, we're busy. Oh, we're short of stuff. Oh, poor me. Yeah, okay, let me work then. Okay, let my clients have some dignity and be able to actually make a little bit of money and just be out in the world. And as you say, this is something that's a very real issue. That when we're in cases, it's fantastic, obviously, best feeling in the world. That's my job, hands down, obviously. Get these little cards and I give them to my clients, and these tears and these chocolates, and it's amazing, wonderful. When the high goes down, okay, because everything goes up, must come down.
Yes.
My client is alone in the world. So what do I do now?
Yes.
What do I do now?
You're
So
not made
all the
ready for
support
any.
is gone. Yeah. So they don't have me because my job is done. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm really happy to guide people, but I cannot really guide them through all that because that's not what we do. Really, that's not what we do. It's just and there is a shortage of services for people to do that, for people to get this. But let me tell you there's a really good organization that I'm very close to as well. It's called Micro Rainbow International, MRI for short. And they support MRI, Micro Rainbow International, been going on for about 7 years or so.
Nice.
And a smallish organization. So what they do, they provide support for LGBTI asylum seekers and refugees from anywhere. And they've got houses all over the country. And
Nice.
yes, so if anyone is watching this, you might be able to avail yourself from services from if you're an LGBTI claimant, even if you're not as well, you can be both. I have plenty of those actually.
Yeah.
So which actually sometimes go hand in hand, really, doesn't it? For obvious reasons. So what MRI what they do, they not only support people through the system, they don't provide their services, but they provide pastoral services. They got houses in Birmingham, outside, not in London, but outside London, like Essex areas and quite a few places. And if you're an asylum claimant, if you're a nurse, you can actually be referred to them. It's a good place they will take you. They're very nice houses. Very nice houses. You got your own room, common areas, but it's not packed, like sardines, like in nurse accommodation. It's really, really nice stuff. And you got access to people help you. And they've got support groups for women, they've got support for men, blah, 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 blah. That's all fine. Lots of people do that. But what is interesting that they do, the others do not do, because there are lots of organizations that support people through the process, but then they pull the rug from under you when you get your papers.
Yeah.
What they do, which I think is revolutionary, is that once you get your papers, they support you. They provide you life coaching sessions. They help you write a CV. They give you interview techniques. So there are lots of people that they're volunteers, like I am a volunteer, like I am for you guys, and I provide them to talks and things. But there will be others who are life coaches who will give like 3 or 4 hours of the time a week for MRI, and then people will be allocated, so they will go to them. And other professionals will give their time. This another person that does meditation as well, so that's meditation courses and things. But they provide a specific thing, a specific skills for you to go out there and get your first job.
Oh, that's brilliant. People should make use of those facilities. I think people should search for MRI. If you can use it, please do.
To my knowledge, they are the only ones who do that, because all the other staff are providing support and even for access to informal counseling. Lots of people do that. Not enough, but that is nothing new. But you are surprised, aren't you? That they're doing this sort of thing post grant of asylum, and that is it's not when they need it most, because you need all the help before you get your papers, because you're very vulnerable at that stage, super vulnerable. Your life is not your own. It's terrible. But then you're cut off and you're left adrift. And yes, you can apply for benefits, and that's fine. But that's not the thing for you right now. Maybe you need benefits for a couple of weeks, but what about getting you into an interview for a job so you can get into a job straight away?
Yes,
there's work available for you.
Yeah, integration. Like just help them with so many things they need right after that. Right. You mentioned about the shortlisted jobs. So are people allowed to take up trainings to go for their jobs when they are claiming?
This is the thing. You see, okay, yes and no, but you have the money for it. You're not going to become an engineer overnight, are you? Yeah.
Right,
now, there's some interesting jobs there that interesting as in or a teacher. It takes years to train a teacher, but there are the jobs like interestingly welders. There's a massive shortage of welders in the UK. Who knew? I only know because I read the list, obviously. Otherwise, why would I know that? Unless I work in construction. So if you, and apparently for that, it's not like, oh, I've done it a few times with my ankle. No. You need to have a qualification, but it's something that you can do in a few months. For example, I'm told. I have no idea. but you don't have to go to uni for that. It's not expensive. Okay.
Yeah,
It's not
vocational training.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that's doable. So if you're a person with some skills around construction, and that and if you think that this is something that you could actually deal with, and you could actually learn, or maybe you've done it before and you can't afford it. Maybe you work in a workshop or in a garage or whatever. You've done it and you have got an idea of the basics of it. So go to one of these colleges. I think it's an MVQ situation. So get the qualification. Boom! You are in the shortage occupation list. Yeah, but you see, there are very few jobs reasonably accessible like that. There is I haven't looked at it for a little while, for a couple of months now, because I only look at these things when I have to, really, because it changes every week. If you've got an ethnic chef for ethnic cuisines, so sometimes because often that these curry houses like Brick Lane, like Birmingham, to the Curry Mile, and all those places, sometimes they struggle to find professionals to cook their food. So I think, even though it's not specified, this is who they're thinking about. But if you think about it, it could be Chinese, could be something that is not European and not easy to get over here, so to speak. Something that that you need really specific skills really to do. Sushi, for example, whatever. Well, sushi is a completely different. So you have to go to uni apparently to become a sushi chef. It's a different thing. But it's a matter of looking at that. If you can get yourself trained, and if it's something but if you have to do a degree, there's a 3-year degree. My goodness, you should be sorted out before then. It's unreasonable. It's completely unreasonable.
Completely. Okay, right in the beginning, you mentioned the best time to claim asylum is to claim upon arrival at the airport.
Always.
So,
always.
Does it complicate things if people apply later on for any reason, if they're not aware of the
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. And it does in a way that is not immediately apparent, and many people don't realize. Only realize this ugly head later on when they apply for citizenship. So the Home Office can be extremely unreasonable. So many things. So let me give you an example. So you're here as a student, and your visa is coming to an end, or not coming to an end, but you're in the last year of a 3-year visa. You still got time. You've gone back and forth. You are from, it doesn't matter, from anywhere, and you've gone back home to see family a couple of times, and then you went for a couple of European breaks. When it was possible to do that, obviously. You went to Canary Islands and you went to Amsterdam. The usual thing everybody does. Yeah, you do these things, and then you're thinking about claiming asylum, but no. So then you find a lawyer, get the law down on that. They say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it. The lawyer says, good case, we're going to do it. And say, oh, okay, yeah, I've got this holiday in Mallorca. Okay, go to Mallorca, and then you come back to Mallorca because lawyer says it might take time. Okay, off you go. Comes back to Mallorca, student visa to Heathrow Airport. Goes to the lawyer prepares the pack. Off you go to the Home Office. Applies for asylum at the Home Office. Make a call, gets an appointment. Yeah, again, when it was possible to get appointments, they're not giving appointments now. So, and then they ask him, Mr. Such and Such, you are an illegal entrant. No, I'm not. Who told you that? No. You must go wrong. No. I'm here with my visa. I came here from my country. Look, I always have clean visas, and never had a refusal. You mean, yeah, but you had all these trips, and according to what you told us, you decided to apply for asylum about 3 months ago, and you didn't do it at that point because you were preparing your case with your lawyer and you were getting all this evidence and things, which is fair enough. We have no problem with that. But then you went to Mallorca. So why didn't you apply for asylum when you came back from Mallorca? Oh, because I'm a student visa. So let me get it straight, Mr. X. So what you're telling me, yeah, this is a thing. So what you're telling me is that you knew that you were going to apply for asylum, you had already decided, and yet, they love doing that, yeah? Yet, you come back into the UK, and you pretend to be a student. No, but I'm still a student. Yeah, you're still a student. But the reality is you have changed. your intentions as to your life in the UK. Therefore, that makes you an illegal entrant. Therefore, we are going to interview you on the question. And for those who don't know what that means that, you know, your answers are recorded in an interview. They're tape recorded, and that's the police station.
Right. That's so strange. They're linking your visa to your intentions.
Oh yes, because you see what it is. What it is that if you're, this is the principle. Let me just go through it again. What they're saying is not just the link in your visa; it's your intention. If you have got a visitor visa and you enter the UK and you show your visitor visa, hello, Ali, I'm coming to visit my uncle in Birmingham. Yeah. Okay. So you get the visa and start asking some questions. They satisfied that you're coming to visit. You enter as a visitor. If then 3 days later you go and apply for asylum, they say, oh, hang on a second. Why didn't you apply for asylum before? You've been here for 3 days. So obviously, it's not, you must have had intention. You've been here for 3 days. So, oh no, because I got the had to apply inside the home. So why didn't you tell, and often we know why Ali going to Birmingham didn't apply, because possibly comes from a country where the police, you know, or some people in a position of authority will scare you to death, and doesn't realize that the person at the airport might not be very nice to you, but they're supposed to be nice to you, and they're supposed to treat you with respect. Say, oh, okay, Ali, well, come with me, because, you know, there's some paperwork we have to fill in. We need to do a screening, and then we're going to let you go, and we'll give you an interview. So, you know, this is what you're expected to do straight away. Okay. Yes. If you enter the UK, even if you have the right visa on your passport, even if you go a BRP with a tier 4 visa, which is a student visa, or a tier, there's no tier 2 anymore, a visa, which is a work permit. Even if you enter, even if you had that before it was legally issued, if you come in and out, and at some point during that time you have already decided, because that will come out later on during the interview, won't it? So because they will ask you. Everybody knows this. They will ask you, so, okay, so you are an apostate. When do you come out as an apostate? Oh, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. So when do you, and then I realized that, why didn't you go back home? Well, because I couldn't, blah, blah, blah. So you said you applied for asylum because you couldn't go back. Okay, fine, we're on board with that. That makes sense. Makes sense. But you went to all these trips when you had already decided that you wanted to be a refugee. So you should ask. The moment you could re-enter the UK, you lie to the immigration officer pretending to be a student. It's a very fine line, okay? But, you know, for them, it's crystal clear. For them, it's like a really thick black line between both intentions. For most normal people, for you and I, and possibly for everybody watching, it's pretty much the same thing, really. What's the big deal? You got a visa, you use that, and then you go and no. You have to do it at that point. So if any of you watching are thinking of applying for asylum, maybe you know you can go anywhere right now, yeah. But, you know, come December, if you decide to apply for asylum and it's possible to go in, and you have got a trip going somewhere, like one of my clients, for example, she had a conference that she was going to speak at a conference somewhere in, I think it was in America, and I told her, okay, fine, you go to the conference at school, but when you arrive at Heathrow Airport for your conference in Washington, you go to immigration and you tell them that you're applying for asylum at that point. Because if you don't do that, you risk. Okay, so now, lots of people, this happens to lots of people, and lots of people don't realize it's the problem. So they go to the screening, because you can't take lawyers, and it's very expensive to take your lawyer to the screening unit, because it could be £2,000 to pay for a lawyer to be with you. And if you're legal aid doesn't pay for that anymore. Used to. Okay. To the end of last century, when I used to start working in asylum in the last century, until end of the 20th century, it was possible to do that. But that was taken away a long time ago. So you don't quite know, because they tell you. And sometimes many lawyers don't even advise their clients properly. So I always tell my clients, look, if they talk about interviewing you under caution, you stop. Tell them that you want to have your lawyer present because you can. That's a different thing. It's like being at the police station, okay? The station. And normally, and then that has happened to me a couple of cases. One of them was an apostate, which, you know, from Saudi Arabia, which was crazy. Crazy, yeah? Goodness gracious, yeah, so crazy. And I had to make a huge fuss. I had to make a huge complaint. In the end, it was fine. In the end, it was fine. They say, okay, fine, we take it all back. We understand now, yeah. But if you're not briefed and you're there on your own, and they start making this big fuss, and you don't quite understand, and they give you this notice saying, oh, you know, the legal entry, oh, you're going to tell me, no, fine, you're part of the process. People don't think twice about it. They think, oh, well, it happened. Okay.
Yeah, that's quite normal to think that you've got a visa, you can come back to the country. Like, that's the natural thing to presume.
But then, you 5 years go by, and you have to apply for nationality, you have to pay an extra year, and then you get your money, you do the life in the UK test, and do the English exam if you have to, and you get your 1,300 quid, and you put the application for citizenship, thinking this is going to be a slam dunk. I've got all the requirements, you know, cool bananas, okay? Oh no, you're refused on character requirement grounds, because in order to be British, you need three requirements. You need to have lived here long enough, 5 years at least. You need to have had leave to remain for at least 12 months. You need to be able to speak English. You need to be a person of good character. So if you came here as a legal entrant, when you didn't realize you were entering illegally and you have a visa, that is not on your character. Oh yes, oh yes.
Okay, that's just sinister.
That is mad. That is mad. It is sinister that you never thought of that. It's sinister, but it's totally bonkers as well.
Yeah.
But that's the norm. So people need to be aware of that. And that's when I get quite a few clients to come to me, people that were not my clients before or the firm a million years ago. And even if they were not declared as a legal entrant, then somebody in Liverpool, that's what the Nationality Directorate is, we decided that actually, yes, I think you were illegal at the time, and we don't like it, and boom, refused. So that they don't take anything away from you. You still retain your indefinite leave to remain. They talk to you, nothing really happens, but you lose your money. They take all your money, and then they invite you to reapply again, and then pay them again. Yes, that's never a problem.
Another word you mentioned was illegal entrant. How does that affect? For example, people coming here without a form of ID, because in the beginning you need to have a form of ID to claim an asylum.
Somebody else's ID, yes.
And sorry?
Or somebody else's ID. So either no ID, like the backdoor situation, that you have no papers and you sneak into the country, or you cross the channel in one of those little boat things, and you have no papers with you. So it's not that the illegality is not about your identity. It's about the fact that you have no permit, you have no paperwork to legally enter the country. So the most common scenarios is that, we see all the time, and people that get vilified, irrespective of where they come from and where they're running away from. But that's what it is. And or those who come to the UK fraudulently, using somebody else's paper, somebody else's ID card from the European Union, or a false made-up document. That British passport, these things are getting harder, but the criminals are getting smarter as well, and they find a way of doing that. So that is illegal entry, which is very different from overstaying. So overstayer is somebody who came to the UK lawfully, usually as a visitor or as a student, and then the visa came to an end and they didn't leave. For whatever reason, they overstayed their visa. But the public doesn't understand all the nuances of all of that. The term overstayer doesn't really get bandied around very much. It's all about illegal entrance, refugee asylum seekers, all the same. So that is just, which is really sad. And well, these days nobody socializes very much, really. But when it was possible to do that, and if I went to an event or a thing outside the bubble of the law, because the bubble of the law is very, because of what we do, nobody likes us, and we really like being fat cat lawyers, quite skinny lawyers, but never mind. And so when we socialize outside the bubble, there's always somebody who has something to say about the work we do, very politely, but they have something to say. And say, some people actually have quite challenged me as but do you think it's right that doing the work? Yes, it's a matter of fact too. But others, what do you think? It's just I don't know, because you hear these stories, don't you? You hear these stories, and it's just because we have our problems. The island is full, and all these illegal immigrants and refugees. Well, first of all, it's not the same thing. Let me tell you the difference. And second of all, I'm sure you're a very nice person. I guarantee you, if you spent a couple of days in my office, you wouldn't say that. I guarantee you wouldn't say that. Whether you read that, oh, Daily Mail, obviously, of course you did. Okay. So I guarantee you wouldn't say that. Wouldn't say that. But what about all these foreign prisoners? Yeah. What about all the homegrown ones? Yeah. Nobody talks about those. Yeah. Yeah. Which is the majority of the population.
Yes.
Obviously.
And again, there is that matter of difference as well. People seem to think every brown person is either an immigrant or refugee.
Yes.
There are third generation brown people here who are actually committing crimes as well. There are homegrown problems we thinking about as well. Yeah, you're completely right.
Well, what I tend to get when I have the audacity to step outside the bubble, you tend to see that the people tend to think, lots of people, because this is what they read in the papers. People are not. I don't believe people are bad or stupid. Yeah? They're just very misinformed and they believe the wrong stuff, really. So they tend to think that the darker the person, particularly black people, will be criminals, and the brown people are terrorists, and this is what they think. Because this is the tribe is being fed by the papers, and there is a lot of that. And clearly, not everybody's like this. People lots of people are very enlightened, but this is not a British problem. It's a problem everywhere.
Yeah, completely.
Everywhere.
Completely.
Everywhere in the West, in the Westernized societies.
There's lots of nuances. There's lots of angles you need to look at. Just like blaming one community or part of a community is just never the right thing to do. Yeah,
exactly. And also what really gets to me, because now this is a forum made of atheists and apostates and all that sort of thing. But you see, I deal with everybody. I am an atheist myself by trade, but I've got many clients who are very religious. I've got clients, this nice Colombian lady who I keep on telling her that I'm not. I abandoned the faith a long time ago and keeps giving me these little cards with the Virgin Mary. See if you can bring me back, it's not going to happen. But anyway, but she's very nice. Okay, it doesn't. Yeah. And then I do have a sort of observant Muslim clients that I don't hide who I am, and they're absolutely fine. But particularly them, they're constantly asked to justify heinous acts they have nothing to do with, and they would never get involved in.
Yes, true. I think we've spent a lot of time. We should start taking questions as well. There's lots of questions because
Go ahead.
Thank you for explaining all of that. It was really educational.
Not at all. My pleasure.
Right. We've asked questions in advance, so people have sent us some questions in advance. I'll ask them first, and then I'll take some from the live as well. So the first one is, can people apply for asylum in another European country if they have been refused in one country? So if they've been refused in one European country, can they apply in another European country?
We will need another show just for this, okay? So you see, this has all changed because of Brexit. So what used to happen, let me just summarize this very quickly, also because we don't know what's going to happen, okay? So before the 31st of December, before the 1st of January 2021, we were part of the European Union. And with that came the Dublin procedures, which basically meant if you were in a European country, say you passed through France, and you didn't apply for asylum there, and the Home Office had evidence you were in France, you definitely were in France, they could send you back to France. And then you had to make your application there. If you had to apply for asylum that didn't work out, not our problem, you have to go there. You have to go there. Okay? Now, there's no more European Union, as we know, for us. And so, but on the 31st of December, 2020, right, they really, it went down to the wire. The Home Office released policy about those cases, which we don't quite know how it's going to work. But the gist of it is that if you were in a European country, your application for asylum in the UK will not be recognized and you have to go back there. Now, today is the 23rd of February 2021, so the policy has not been around for very long. One of my colleagues at the firm wants to challenge this. He's actually looking for suitable cases to bring a test case to challenge those provisions. But right now, the answer to the question is no, but watch this space, because it may change.
Okay, great. Thanks for the answer. Let me ask the next one. What is the best country to apply for asylum? I suppose
it depends. It depends. It depends. You see, I wouldn't really know. Everywhere is bad. Okay, like for example, Italy, they welcome. Well, Italy, they got huge flux of asylum seekers because of where they are and because of a massive, really long coastline. And they will take people in, but then they will not support them, and then people will end up sort of sleeping in rough, in horrendous accommodation. And if you think NAS is bad, for what I hear from clients, you know, that is even worse. Spain, pretty much the same. Lots of people have to rely on the generosity of individuals. Churches, actually, there's some really good churches that are allowing people to sleep on the floor, but at least not to be indoors. France is not much better. So I hear that the Scandinavian countries, they're better organized, but lots of people don't want to go there because they find it like really strange, foreign. I hear Holland is very good. I have very good things about Holland.
Okay, nice.
It really depends. It really depends.
Yeah.
Germany is not so good anymore. Not so good anymore. Not because of the government, actually. The government is not bad. Angela Merkel, she did try to do the right thing by refugees, as we all seen with Syrians and things. But that has stirred up some really unsavory elements harking to the past. So, which is not good. And then Eastern European countries, I have heard lots of horror stories from clients. People being put in camps, in secure facilities. They were like prison in certain places. So it's really difficult to say. Really difficult to say.
Okay, thank you. Right, the next one's what is the risk of deportation for refused cases? So cases of
okay, well, it depends what you mean. The reality, let me see, I'm just going, my battery is getting a bit low. Let me just plug the phone in. So if you have just asylum, unless you have got a case that is considered to be a bit of a joke and not serious at all, which it would be very rare in an asylum apostille case, you get a right of appeal. So you go to court. If you haven't got a solicitor at that point, get a lawyer. You should not go to court on your own. I cannot stress this enough. It's possible to do your case yourself and do your research and advocate for yourself and do a good interview yourself if you're confident and empowered enough to do that and you know how to present yourself. It's very possible. I've seen people get through the system, an element of luck, getting nice immigration officers, but it's possible. But don't go to court on your own.
Yeah,
and then it really depends. It really depends, because even if your appeal is dismissed, there might be a chance for a fresh asylum appeal. So it's not an answer that we cannot give a precise response to this, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So why do you say people should have a solicitor or a barrister with them when they go to court? Is it because when the appeal gets to court, you have to fight the law now because you have to include the articles and the court points or
you
guidelines?
do, yeah.
So
but
it's
that's not
beyond
the main reason why.
Yeah.
That's not the main reason why. The main reason why is because then you see you will have the thing is when you get a refusal from the Home Office, you get the refusal letter. They tell you why you cannot be a refugee. Okay, so then, but this is the Home Office because they don't agenda, blah 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 blah. That's why you have got an appeal, a right to appeal. And when you have a right to appeal, you go before an independent immigration judge, clearly, who does not work for the Home Office. So if then you are not successful, yet another written decision will be given as to why you are not a refugee. And there's two official decision makers throwing you on the bus already. Okay, it's difficult to come back from that. It's not impossible, but it's two people, particularly one who's independent, who doesn't work for the Home Office.
Yes.
When you have your say in court, this is the other thing as well. It's very facetious. When sometimes I may first claim, say, well, my client didn't know. Say, oh, your client has plenty of opportunity. Went to court. If you can just get up in court and just talk to the judge and tell whatever you want, it doesn't quite work like that. But this is the danger of this. Those decisions follow you. A judicial decision is very difficult to come back from. It's not impossible, but it's better to avoid that. And if you find yourself in court and represented, tell the judge, please, judge, help me. Adjourn my case. I need a lawyer. They're going back. Why do you have a lawyer? Oh, because I have no money. Because of legal aid. Oh, because I haven't been able to find somebody. It's very difficult. Many lawyers don't do legal aid. I've been dealing with organizations. Please, 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 ask them to adjourn. Don't go. Don't ignore the court hearing, because you will be sentenced in absentia. Just go and beg the judge for an adjournment.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And one more question is, where can one get pro bono legal support?
Pro bono, as in possibly legal aid advice? That's probably what they mean. Okay. Pro bono is a different thing. Pro bono means that a lawyer will not charge you any money. Legal aid means that the lawyer will be paid at a much reduced rate, but will be paid by the government. And you don't get involved with that. The lawyer deals with the government, yeah? And you just get the service. That is the difference. Very few people do this work on legal aid. For example, our firm does our work in legal aid, but we are unable to take on any legal aid cases this year. It's impossible, because nothing has moved due to the coronavirus, and the lawyers that do legal aid work, they are completely overwhelmed with work. We cannot take anything new. So this, the general system of cases going through the system, the courts, whatever, being dealt with, sorted out, boom, goes, let's do another one, okay? That has stopped because there are no appeals, because there is a massive backlog, and they're busy doing lots of work and preparing and things, but these cases are just moving through the motions extremely slowly at the moment, extremely slowly. So we cannot take their own part. The thing to do is to go to organizations such as Migrant Help or Refugee Action, and just see whether they can refer you to somebody, but it's tough at the moment.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for those answers. I'll take some questions from our live comments now, and once we're done, then we'll finish. So the first one is from Aftab Almighty. I applied for further submission in 2018 and didn't had any answer from the Home Office since then. Very recently, I had response from the Home Office. They said my case has been prioritized. Okay, there's no question in this.
Well, you got really lucky after. And what was the response? I'm assuming it must have been a positive response.
I'm hoping. We wish you the best after. So
yes.
This question's from this name. I'm sorry, I'm not going to try and pronounce
Mr. Sadeghi. Yes, Mr. Sadeghi. Okay.
Sadeghi.
So
okay.
Yes. So you want to? Well, you don't submit cases to me. I'm not the Home Office. Okay. But if you want to speak to me, just have a look at my firm's website and just drop me a line. If I can help you, I will. At the moment, we are very busy, but yeah, I just tell me what your case is about, and if I can do something for you, obviously I will.
Okay, great. I think there's part 2 from Mr. Aftab Almighty. What can I do to get decision? It's been 3 years now, and since my further submission, please ask Anna, how can you chase Home Office for a decision?
For a decision after all. Okay, all right, okay. So, very good question. This is the problem with the system. The Home Office was already messed up before the coronavirus. I reckon it's because Brexit, not Brexit itself, just because human resources were diverted to other sections, and asylum was left, as it always is. Then, of course, the coronavirus, so that's a perfect storm of nonsense, really. So, after, the best thing I can advise you is to get in touch with your local MP. Even if you're not British or have a visa, it doesn't really matter. The local MP will help you. Well, they have an obligation to help you. So just contact them by email. Just go to Google, put your postal MP, put your postal MP. You will get the details of your local MP. Contact them by email, explain your situation, and ask them to get in touch with the Home Office. The Home Office has got a section called the Ministerial section that, and they have got an obligation to deal with any queries that come out of the Ministerial section. So doesn't mean that you will get a decision, but at least they can be giving a bit of a push, and often that works.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. The next one's from Hazel. This is a very fascinating conversation. I was wondering, what changes would you make to the current UK citizenship application process if you had the power to alter it any way you want?
Good question. Good question. Well, the thing is, I don't think the basis of the system is really that bad in the sense that they expect. It's actually quite easy to become a British citizen. Really, it's just other countries they're super restrictive, super restrictive. Like for example, Spain, you have to live there for 10 years. It's a long time. Yeah, it's a long time. And do a written exam, which is actually not that easy to do. Yeah, you need to do the Life in the UK test. Yes, you have to do the book, but it's multiple choice, not really difficult. But it's got a skill there. And the minimum level, the exam that you need for the Life in the UK, for the citizenship, is a B1 exam, which is really not that difficult, actually. And it's not even a written exam, it's an oral exam. So I think it's actually that in of itself is quite inclusive. And so the basics of it, like living here for 5 years, minimum of 5 years, not that long, I think is all right. But then I've got and then there's a good character requirement. Obviously, I haven't got a problem with good character, but it's how they interpret the good character requirement. That is my problem, really, because you see, we talked at length about this illegal entry, illegal entry certifications that people don't even know that they have, or little things that they come back to bite them, like when they're students and they may have been fined for not having an Oyster card, and sometimes that's actually taken. As that's also the other thing, when it comes to nationality, the Home Office are really very unaccountable for their decisions because it's a discretionary process and there is no right of appeal.
Okay.
So people don't realize about it. Anything to do with British nationality law is completely discretionary. So we have got the guidelines. There are guidelines saying, broadly speaking, if you tick these boxes, you're fine and we'll give it to you. That's what the guidelines are there for, to tell people, to inform them as to what to expect. But they can depart from these guidelines to your advantage or to your detriment. So it's just that would be possibly the main thing I would make would be just to make those decisions appealable, so that they would go in front of an independent judge.
Yes. Okay. Brilliant. Another one. I think it's not a question, but it's something to highlight from daughter Ibn al-Masih, ex-Muslim who was threatened with deportation to home country, so I could get taken care of. We're sorry to hear that, daughter of Ibn al-Masih, and we wish you the best. I hope things work out for you. Right. Hazel again comes up with a really good question. Considering all the hurdles that come with applying for asylum, in the case of a student, is it easier in this situation to follow the post-study work visa route and get permanent residence?
Well, that's a very good question. I actually had that question from a client last week. So this PSW, we used to have that years ago. Theresa May said it was being abused. That was a lie. I don't know where she got that from. And the good thing about this is that once you do your degree in the UK, which is usually 3 years, 4 years, you can be given 2 years to live and work in the UK, unrestricted. So that many students were able to get sponsored employment during those 2 years, which is brilliant, which is absolutely brilliant. So on the one hand, yes, of course, because you don't have to deal with the Home Office, you don't have to deal with open-ended situations. If you haven't got the right to work at the time you apply for asylum, because if you do have it, you might be able to keep it while the case is still going. But your life is completely out of your hands. You could be put in limbo for years, even if you've got the best case in the world, which is horrendous. On the other hand, if you work out and you get asylum, you're pretty much done. You get 5 years. During those 5 years, you're pretty much like a British citizen, in the sense that you're considered a home student if you go to uni, which is not the case. You're here as a migrant. You are entitled to housing. You can go on the housing list. You can entitled to benefits, to student loans. Entitled to student loans. This is another thing. And then after that, unless you commit crimes or leave the UK for a very long time, you get your indefinite leave to remain. So swings and roundabouts. At the moment, not great because of the lengthy delays, but it just depends.
Okay, great. I think we've come to an end. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thank you, Ana, for joining us once again and for this hugely informative discussion. Thanks a lot, Anne, for answering all the questions that we put forward.
Not at all.
Thank you. And before we go off, I just want to remind everybody again of our film called Women Leaving Islam. there's the link for it. You can find it on the same channel. If you go to the videos, you can find it there. It's a film about 6 ex-Muslim women and their stories and their lives with Islam, and then their lives are after leaving Islam, and their journey of questioning their faith and coming out of it. It's a really powerful and brilliant film. It includes 6 very outspoken ex-Muslim women and their life stories. You should go and watch that. And for to keep up to date with our events page, this is our link. If you go to our website and go to events, you can find it there. And if you, we also provide support letters for your asylum claim from, if you're an apostate and claiming asylum, and if you need a support letter, CEMBA provides that. For that, you can send me an email at ali.malik at x-muslim.org.uk. And thank you for joining us. Thanks again, Anna. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Keep safe, everybody.
I'm just ending this podcast.